Divide and Conquer, the second last and the last episodes of the third season of Star vs. the Forces of Evil, are some of my absolute favorite episodes of any animation ever. They are just so good, doing exactly what they need to do to wrap these stories up, and then some. These episodes are made up of 3 distinct segments, and despite the fact that 2 of those 3 segments run parallel to each other and we switch perspectives between the 2 of them multiple times, I am going to be talking about them all 3 separately. Eclipsa returns to the palace and informs Star, who is now the acting queen with Moon gone, what she's done and that Meteora is still coming, and Star has her taken away by her knights, because of course she would. That is the logical reaction to what Eclipse has done here. But that is quite possibly the last wholly responsible thing that Star does for quite a while. Her first instinct is to consult her mother, and that makes sense. Her mom has a lot more experience and has even dealt with something similar to this in the past. Not only that, but Eclipsa just flat out said that her mom almost beat Meteora single-handedly. Most likely in large part because of that experience. Getting Moon back seems like the logical course of events, and we do know that she went to the magical dimension. But I also understand why the episode frames this as Star running away from her problems, because it definitely does. Because we have no guarantee that Moon is still in the magical dimension. Like, the unique properties of the magical dimension suggest that she would get trapped there, but we don't know that for sure. And because of those same properties, it is a risk for Star just to go there. Pursuing Moon into the magical dimension when Meteora is on the doorstep of the palace is irresponsible in its own way. So what Star is doing here is a very gray sort of thing. It's a very gray course of action. There are upsides and downsides to her choice, and it's really not clear-cut which one outweighs the other. But she goes to the magical dimension anyway, setting herself reminders on her mirror that she is Star Butterfly and that she's there to find her mother, which helps until she actually finds Moon, bathing in the waters of the magical dimension, completely naked, which was super awkward, and those reminders start to confuse Moon, so Star has to throw them away, and then without them, she becomes trapped there as well. Because, of course, she did. And this was a cool sequence in its own right. Don't get me wrong, I don't hate this sequence just because Star screwed up to give it to us. It was a cool sequence. The magical dimension is, of course, visually interesting. It's actually, I would say, pretty visually stunning. And we do get to learn a little bit more about it. We get to see that there's all of these pillars of golden waters, which take you to other dimensions, quite possibly dimensions that we've never visited before, setting up plot lines for the next season. We also, during this sequence, got to see something pretty interesting, which may have lasting implications in the show, which I plan to talk about elsewhere, so I'm not going to go into detail about them here. But washing herself in the waters of the magical dimension has removed all of the dark magic from Moon. She no longer has the creepy veins crawling up her arms. And as a result, a stream of inky dark liquid has been introduced to those golden waters. This alone is a super neat visual, which brings up a whole bunch of great possibilities for where the story might be going. All on its own, just this one visual and the introduction of a new character, a dark unicorn which seems to have been spawned from that inky liquid. We also get to see here that removed of her knowledge and experiences, sort of restored to factory settings, I guess you might say, Moon is a lot like her daughter. And that was neat because up to this point we've seen similarities between River and Star, but we've never really seen similarities between Moon and Star. It was just very nice to see that, at least once in the series. But they frolic around for a bit. They have absolutely no hope of ever getting out of here on their own. Star's plan to rescue her mother has completely failed, and they're only saved by Butterfly Sparkles over here, who recognizes that they're not supposed to be here and so sends them away. But she ends up sending Moon to somewhere else when she returns Star to the palace, and Star still doesn't know where Moon is, and now she doesn't even have a starting place where she can start looking for her, so that is hopeless now. She has now essentially wasted all of that time. But things are not hopeless. While Star was trying to find Moon in the magical dimension, Marco was off holding off Meteora with a band of all of these idiots. The fact of the matter is, Star's entire court sucks. They suck at their jobs. They are terrible at their jobs, all except for the Knight of the Wash, who is great at his job, but he's the laundry guy. And I get this is to hammer home that she's the one who's supposed to be making the decisions. But that's the purpose of a royal court, to advise the ruler. Star desperately needs to replace all of those idiots with new, slightly less idiotic idiots, at the very least. The only members of her court who, in any way, don't suck are, like I said, the Knight of the Wash, and Marco himself, because as her squire, Marco is technically part of her court. And so, when left with seemingly no other option, Star tries to send the Knight of the Wash to intercept Meteora and hold her back. Marco volunteers to go instead and proves that he can stand up to Meteora by facing off against Star and using a combination of his knowledge of Star's spells, his karate training, and his experience fighting against the Hecapu clones to counter every single one of her spells in a super badass sequence that I really enjoyed. Like, I really got the sense that these two should be doing this regularly just to practice and improve their skills. It was a fantastic sequence. We got to see exactly where Marco stands in comparison with Star, at least Star in this form. And it proved once again that this show is going to continue to remember those 16 years that Marco spent chasing Hecapu around, something that I was honestly worried the show wasn't going to pay attention to once that episode was over. And Marco has a plan. It's not a particularly good plan, and after it fails and he and his group start improvising, their next plan is significantly better. Just them acting on instinct and improvising in the moment is significantly better, but it's still a plan, and it still kind of works. And at the end of the day, they do at least succeed in keeping Meteora back, and that was their true purpose. There was some great action in these segments. We got a pretty clear idea of just how strong Meteora is, because end of the day, fighting against Moon, someone who has magical abilities which aren't super clearly defined, it's difficult to see just how powerful Meteora actually is. Now we've seen people using kind of more down-to-earth kind of tactics against her, and we've seen how she reacts to those, and therefore are able to gauge her abilities a little bit better. And while Tom and Marco are able to make a little bit of progress against her, the others really aren't, and at the end of the day, none of them are really a threat to her. But like I said, they at least managed to hold her off for a while, and it's not as if, even if they hadn't, these scenes would have been wasted, because some of the interactions here were excellent, particularly the interactions between Marco and Tom. Even people who don't ship Tomko, I would bet, after watching these sequences in these two episodes, can at least understand why other people do. When Marco is recounting his first plan, for example, Tom is just showing him his undivided attention, hanging on his every word. You can really see that Tom cares about everything that he's saying. It's just, there's no other adequate way to describe it other than adorable. The look that he gives Marco in this scene is adorable. And then later, when Marco starts to lose heart after his first plan fails, it's Tom who not only inspires Marco to come up with a new plan, but inspires everyone else to keep following him. And then later, when everyone else has fallen and Meteora is about to take Marco's soul, even after Marco finally tells Tom that he kissed Star, Tom still comes back and sacrifices himself over and over again, allowing Meteora to rip his other demon souls painfully from his body, one after another, to shield Marco from her magic. Once Marco is actually finally defeated, Tom even goes so far as to drag him back to the palace, despite the fact that Tom looks like he's about to collapse himself. You can feel that there is a real bond there, that it is a strong bond, probably one of the realest bonds in this show up to this point, and that Tom, as he improves as a person, is only making that bond stronger and more meaningful as he lets go of all the selfishness that used to taint it. But this is when Star finally makes what I think is definitely a mistake in these two episodes. Seeing that Marco has had his soul sucked out, she tries to go back to that magic fountain place and restore him the way that she and Moon restored the High Commission back during Battle for Muni, but she doesn't actually know how to open it, so it fails, and she wastes more time doing this, enough so that all of the time that Marco bought for her has become wasted now. Meteora isn't just near the palace, she is at the palace, and by the time Star gets back, she's taken it over. This is when it finally sinks in that Star really has been running away from her problems. She's just been finding good excuses to do so up to this point. But seeing the state of her kingdom, she finally realizes that that's what she's been doing. And so she finally stands up to Meteora, she goes into her golden butterfly form, and she fights Meteora. But despite the fact that we know she has more raw potential than Moon, she doesn't have the knowledge or experience that Moon does, and Meteora has absorbed a bunch of really powerful souls since then, is significantly stronger than she was even when Moon fought her. And so it ends up being kind of a stomp. Meteora just shrugs off everything that Star sends at her. Star uses up all of the magic that she has at the moment in one final attack. It still doesn't really work. And Eclipsa, who was, I would assume, freed by all of the damage to the castle, has to come and save her, redeeming herself for the mistake that she made back when Moon was fighting Meteora in the episode Tough Love. She takes the wand from Star, it transforms back into Eclipsa's wand, which has a badass design, and we finally get to see just how powerful Eclipsa is. More so even than Meteora was Star's spells. Eclipsa just kind of shrugs off Meteora's attempts to attack her. Now, maybe Meteora wasn't really giving it her best because this is her mom, but still, that's pretty impressive, especially considering that once they've gone a couple of rounds, Eclipsa is basically able to one-shot her with a single spell, which returns all of the stolen souls and seemingly destroys Meteora completely. At least, That seems to be what the intention of the spell was. But in what I think was the best moment of these two fantastic episodes, whether because Eclipsa wished it subconsciously, or because Meteora was just too strong to be destroyed completely, rather than dying, she reverts to her baby self. And Eclipsa is given another chance to raise her daughter. I honestly did not expect this. I hoped for it. I wished that it were possible, because I didn't think it was possible. But I certainly didn't expect it. I was very pleasantly surprised, because Meteora was such a happy kid. She didn't deserve what was done to her, and now she has a chance to be raised by someone who genuinely loves her and wants her to be who she is. This is by far the best thing that could have happened to both of these characters. By far. It's just such a fantastic moment. And I hear that my reaction to it was also pretty fantastic, so once again I refer you to that live reaction video, which will once again be linked to up in the little corner doodad, in case you guys want to go and check that out. The episode ends with everybody who was attacked by Meteora returning to normal, Star letting Eclipsa keep the wand, since technically it belongs to her anyway, and then letting her go and live her life with her daughter. Both of them have had so much time stolen from them, and now they have a chance to get that time back. And I am so happy that Star made this choice for them, even though we do get a bit of an ominous warning at the very end from Glosric, who can suddenly talk again and sounds completely different, that Eclipsa will now go to try and find her monster husband, Globgor. And it's treated as a big ominous moment, but I honestly don't think Globgor is going to be a true villain. I think he's going to end up being a sympathetic but stern and hard to deal with kind of character who Star is able to eventually make peace with. I think that's what's going to happen. This sets up all kinds of great plot threads for next season. We got the Globgor stuff, obviously. I'm expecting Marco to become like a full knight next season too, because at this point I honestly think he's earned it. He's certainly more capable than any of Star's actual knights at this point. And we also have things like Star not having a wand now for the first time. Like, this is the first time that she has ended an episode without having a wand. So they're going to have to deal with that in some way. Either she's going to have to learn to do magic without it, and the kingdom just kind of abandons the tradition of handing the wand down from the queen to the heir, or she's going to have to find a way to make a new one. We also have to find Moon and figure out what's up with her. There's so much great stuff here just left dangling for us to think about, but it doesn't feel overwhelming, and all of it feels deserved. It feels like the show deserves to be allowed to leave these things to dangle. It doesn't feel like they're just trying to trick us back into watching the show later. And these threads that are left dangling definitely don't make this feel like less of a season finale. They are in no way gratuitous, and I look forward to seeing all of them resolved, because I have absolutely no doubt that all of them will be resolved. Like, even the monster reunification stuff from earlier in the season, I expect will be resolved along with all the Globgor stuff. I also really love the parallels here between Star getting ready to protect the castle against Meteora, and Moon back in her flashback sequence in the Battle for Muni episodes, having to deal with the coming attack from Toffee and his forces, and getting to see the different ways that they dealt with that kind of pressure. The main difference was, of course, here, that Moon knew for sure that her mother wasn't coming back. She knew for sure that that well of experience was not available to her, whereas Star didn't. And in the end, they both stepped up and did what had to be done. Star just took so long to do it that she ended up failing on her own, which honestly I'm kind of looking forward to seeing how she deals with that. I expect it to hit her pretty hard. Overall, these were spectacular episodes. I think I've made that perfectly clear, as this review has been less of a review and more of a rant about all of the things that I loved about these episodes. But I will say it again. They are fantastic. And honestly, I think they're a better finale than Battle for Muni. I think the plots run together better and everything pays off better in the end. Though that is not to say that Battle for Muni isn't good. The moment when Star first transformed into her golden butterfly form was the first time that this show ever gave me chills. Hence why I use it in the closing to each of these reviews now. But in terms of just the plot, I think that these were better episodes. That this was the better finale. That this show is getting better. And I expect it to keep getting better, because that's been the pattern for so long now, and I don't see it changing. I'm also super excited to be reviewing these episodes because I'm effectively caught up now. I have some filler to go back and watch, but that's not a super high priority for me. I tend to do that more in my spare time than actually schedule it. That means that I am caught up on the primary show that I have been reviewing up to this point, and I can start reviewing other stuff. In fact, you should probably expect that today. But in the meantime, if you have seen these two episodes of Star vs. the Force of Evil, what did you think of them? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below or over on my Discord. Link in the description. But either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you guys later.